Let's see.
All right, no problem.
Not yet. Not yet. And we do. Wait.
Hold on a second.
We go to the cloud. Okay. Yes. So now you should see it. Do you see it?
I see it.
Okay.
Yeah, because I always the first time I saw it, kind of shocked, and for some reason I put leave meeting on. I go, that was a smart thing to do. All right. Okay, I think I got the lighting sufficiently fine here. Everybody ready? Let's get going.
So please mute.
Join palms. Bow. 4 great vows. I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings. I vow to cut off endless vexations. I vow to master limitless approaches to Dharma. I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood. Okay. It's our regular Monday night class. We've been going over Madhyamika. Some of you have gotten it. Some of you are still grasping at the sea foam and sinking, but that's okay. That's natural for things in terms of what's happening. So we should not be too worried about that. The most important thing is to try to feel with your heart. And I've shown you pictures like the one I'm going to show you before, but I wanted to show you. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time for you to engage in wall gazing and to try to figure out what the picture is, but it is this. See if I can get it up there. And if you looked at it, and I would say, look at this picture, then you would look at it and you say, I just see a bunch of like lines and patterns, and actually there's pictures of birds in here, all sorts of different kinds of birds. And you say, it's just a page with a bunch of pictures of birds, of hundreds of birds. And yet within that picture, there is a picture of a bird's nest with 3 baby birds and a mother that's feeding the bird a worm, a vegetarian worm, but feeding a worm to them, and the nest is hanging on a branch and you see the leaves. And you go, well, I didn't see that when you did that. And if I gave it to you, some of you would be able to see it, some of you won't. But it would not just simply be me saying, here's a picture. You would have to look at it. And I would show you how to look at it. And by looking at the picture, you would look at it and some of you would be able to see that within this picture here, there is actually a 3D picture that's in here of the nest and the mother that has her wings spread out and coming in with a worm. And you go, but how can that be? But some of you would have the faith to be able to see it. Some of you take a little bit of time. I've shown this at retreats before, and with mixed results, and people put a lot of pressure on themselves so they can't see it. And it's very funny because I did this in Taiwan, and I think the monastics were too uptight to like, well, I've got to see this. I'm a monastic. I should be able to see the picture. And then you see these people around them going, I see it, I see it. And then that picture, there was actually a picture of the Buddha. And so everybody's seen, I see the Buddha, I see the Buddha. And how did they do that? They followed the instructions, and they suspended their idea of what they believed to be the reality of a picture to look at a picture that they'd never seen before in a different way, completely different than it had already been done, unless they had seen these pictures before. if it was at first instant, it's something that no matter, even if I tell you there is a picture within a picture, you would not be able to see it. You would only see the grid of all these different birds. How is that? Because the people, they heard the doctrine, they followed the method, they had faith that I would not lie to them. Most assuredly, there is 3 baby birds here, and the bird, the mama bird's feeding them. I don't know if it's a mama bird, maybe it's a papa bird, but the bird is feeding them. And so it also goes to show that even after you give birth to these chicks, you still have to feed them. And some of you who are young, you'll realize that, and those of you with white hair, you'll go, that isn't that the truth? And you're still feeding them. But in any case, it's something that you have to do on your own. Madhyamika is in this way. Madhyamika is so beautiful, so wonderful. It's very, very incredible practice. And it is a practice. But people look at it as a philosophy. So philosophers go up to it and look at it and say, well, this is a kind of like a real, and it's not, it kind of falls out from the Hegelian philosophy of virtual reality, and that everything is kind of this virtual reality and this consciousness. And we go, no, it's not that. And they're going, well, that's preposterous. Then it's just something made up. It's nihilistic. It doesn't have any emphasis, anything to it. And so it's just make believe. And this is a very easy way for us to do that. There's no faith there. And it's easier to discount faith than to look into it and say, maybe there is something here. Maybe this does make sense. It's not easy for us to look at things like this and to see them and say, does this make sense or not? It's easier for us just to simply discredit the whole thing, which most people will do. And if you get people from a Judeo-Christian belief system, they'll just go, oh, that's a bunch of hooey, that's just make believe. They believe in all of these gods, and there's only one God. And and it's easy to do that. Philosophers will say, well, let's not go too fast with that, but we still don't understand what they're talking about, because it's not within our belief system. It's not within what we have as intuitive. Sorry, my dogs are coming in and out. Okay. In any case, when we see the things, or when I say something to you, you have to really try to explore it. It's not going to be in the words. We talked about this, or I talked about this on Monday, that it's not in the words. But nevertheless, we need these words. We need these things. And we don't deny or discredit or say that something, if it's determinate, it's not real, or if it's determinate, it's real, because then we paint ourselves into a corner, because the indeterminate, the paramatha, the unconditioned, is beyond those conceptualizations and those designations. So it's not easy for us to get there, because we have to abandon all of that. But people go, oh, you're abandoning that. You're abandoning intellectualism, and so what do you practice? Stupidism? Is that what it is? Ignorant? No, it's the opposite of that. It's not holding on to views of any kind and claiming them to be real. So if I am right, then you must be wrong. And then who is to say what is the truth? Once we start doing that, we begin to create these determinations where the mind is something that is indeterminate. And as a result of it being indeterminate, we go, what does that mean? What does unconditioned mean? Hold on. You really need to listen to these words, indeterminate and unconditioned. And in these words that we use, what does it mean by unconditioned? So we say tattva is real, is absolute, it is unconditioned. What does this mean? Think about this word, unconditioned. So we know what condition means is that if I was a very bad father and every time my kids did something wrong, I would raise my fist, they would cover up. So it could be very embarrassing if I was out in public and I was just wiping my brow and my kids are covering up. They would know what kind of a father I was, because I conditioned the kids to expect this from me. And so this is something that we have to look at. It's conditioned. Or if we like fruit, every time we see fruit, our mouth starts to water because we like the fruit. And so this is a condition. If we see somebody that's very attractive, then maybe our pulse increases. These kinds of things are natural. Or somebody who is hobbling along, we don't want to see them. All of this is conditioned. Unconditioned is to see all of these things, to see them exactly as they are, from why they are the way they are. The person that is beautiful, the person that is may look like remind you of looking like an animal, and you see all these things, and you're aware that there is a cause and condition to all of these things, cause and condition. But that which is aware is mind itself. This mind, it does not negate the phenomenal side. It doesn't say all of these things, they're not real. But on the other hand, it doesn't say all these things are real. All these things are existent or non-existent, because it doesn't come from that point of view. That point of view is from the surface of the mind, from the appearances that land on mind in accordance with causes and conditions. They're perfectly appearing there in accordance with pratika samapada. So what then is this pratika samapada then? Who turns that crank? Anybody? Who turns the crank of pratika samapada? Where did this come from? Nobody? You guys want to say something, but you don't want to say it because you don't want to show your level. But you're already showing your level. Yeah, go ahead.
Mind.
Go ahead. Mine?
Yeah.
Whose mind? Your mind?
The mind.
The mind. Okay.
Vastness,
all right.
Whatever.
The mind. So you got me. You know, I was hiding this from you, but if you go up into the cave in Tibet, because that's where this all came from, you'll find a big giant eye with a big massive brain around it, and it is the mind, and it runs the whole show. So sometimes because of the sunspots, it affects the things and it doesn't work right. But I'm playing with you simply because when we talk about the mind, what we want to really kind of look into is that this mind is not mind as we believe it. It is not consciousness. And if we cling to it in this way, and this is kind of where Madhyamika was going, okay, Yogacara, you got some good things going for you, but then you say everything is consciousness, but then they kind of corrected it by saying everything is mind only versus consciousness. The Abhidharma school was saying everything was real, and they go, well, no, you guys are way off with that. If you're trying to say that everything is real, because philosophically, that's very, very difficult position to support. And so when we look at this, we understand that that Pratika Samapada is really the functioning of mind. And you go, but does it create things? Yes, it does. And does it make things born? Yes, it does. Well, then why is it such a messed up place? Because it's different from the idea that you think that there is an entity that's there, and that there is one divine mind. And that's why I was going with this whole thing of this I in the cave. There isn't this one divine I that sees everything. The mind is just Buddha. And so we don't have to slice it up into different pieces. Yet that mind that we are using at this very moment is precisely this mind. This is not easy for us to understand, not easy at all. It's difficult for us, but we need to contemplate this. And if we don't, we stay on this side, and we can make the place look nice and everything. But if we stay on this side, then we will always just keep repeating this samsaric existence. This is not our true mind. This is not our true nature. This is an accumulation of causes and conditions over lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, worlds after worlds. We don't know how long this started, but we know through the practice, the proper practice of right view, that the mind can come to a place of complete clarity. And in that, what appears to be contradictions that are on the samsaric side are no longer contradictions. They're seen precisely as they are, and they're seen to be very, very clear. This is not easy for us to do. But if we try to maintain this mind of intellectual cogitation, we cannot do that. Last week, we stopped at a point, and actually, I was kind of reviewing what I talked about last week. I suggest you go back and read it. I mean, if you're really serious in this, you go back and read it and look at Rick, who was so kind of a bodhisattva to get what I had was reading from and put it in there. It makes it a lot easier to understand, because these are very scholastic writings, so they're not written for the regular audience, and so they're difficult to see. But once you read it, then and you have a chance to look at it with my explanation, it helps quite a bit. But I'm going to back up just for the last paragraph that I talked about, so we can get a running start. This says the function of Madhyamika dialect is not to bring about a change in things, but in our mentality. And when he's saying it's not to bring about, oh, Gilbert's going to be a bodhisattva, he's going to reach the 10th bhumi, and the 10th bhumi, he can fly anywhere he wants. No, he's pre-approved by TSA. He can go wherever he wants. Doesn't matter. It isn't in this way. So it's saying, but in our mentality, but the mentality, what he's saying here is what I often say is it's replacing the perception of the five skandha with the perception of the Buddha mind. And the perception of the Buddha mind, although it incorporates this picture, it goes beyond this picture. And it creates dimensionally a different awareness that is not limited spatially or temporally to anything. Ergo, Manjusri is non-abiding. So he's not abiding either in space or in time. And so it's like a superior piece in a chessboard that's three-dimensional that can go anywhere it wants to be. And even if it's over in this corner up here, it's also down here as well, and over here as well. And you go, well, that's cheating. I mean, then what's the game? The game is you don't play the game. If you play the game, you lose. But it is just in this way. What I'm saying is not far from it in terms of how the mind is able to be used and how it can access information. Remember, the Buddha would say, oh, there was this person, he'd say, oh, this person was this way because they had they had abandoned their child when they were young. And so as a result of it, then in this lifetime, they're left in this little shack. So how would the Buddha know that? How would he not know that? Because he can move anywhere temporally and spatially. Mind is that way. It accesses all this information. We don't know that. We don't know it because we are stuck in samsara. We are playing a whole different game, and we go, well, why didn't you tell me that you could move like this? I said, I've been telling you all along. It's just that you have to try to move. You have to make the move. But first you have to understand how the game is played. And so when you understand it, then it works. The first rule is pratika samappada, causes and conditions never fail. We don't see things in terms of, even if we say that this is absolute, the unconditioned, within the unconditioned is the condition. It's not two things. There's not two realities of apparent reality and absolute reality. They are not separated. I can't call them a one, because if we call them a one, then we are saying, well, there's something out there, or there's nothing out there, and this is the one, but everything else is empty. It is not emptiness in this way. It's empty because everything is everything without the name thing. It's mine. And so what I'm trying to do is get you to look at this from a different viewpoint. When I read the text, that's when your head starts spinning and go, oh my gosh, look at these words that he's saying. What is he? I mean, how am I going to do that? And that was only the first sentence. Therefore, it is declared in the text that through wisdom, the real things are not made unreal. Things themselves are unreal. So when we use the wisdom, we don't go around and go, I see this. Gilbert was right. This world is a dream. It's not real. It, to a certain extent, we say that because we say that the things themselves are unreal things. He's not talking about mind. He's talking about that. But that comes with the whole packet. Like when you you get a new computer, and then you want to put a program in, it may have an installation thing and tells you all the stuff that this particular program runs. We're not talking about a program on the computer. We're talking about the main operating system. I'm not a computer person, but I know there was a term for that, like for the main operating system that runs the entire thing. But for that, the programs cannot run. Well, the programs are running by virtue of this basic operating system that's there, that serves as a foundation. That's mine. And how is it plugged in? Pratika Samapada. So Pratika Samapada enables these things to do. Causes and conditions never fail. So if you want to know about Pratika Samapada, read about the 12 Nidanas, which is what the Buddha taught initially. And he went, ta-da! And everybody's going, like Sue was last week, I don't get this. I don't know. I can't get this. I'm not, I see your mouth move, but I don't know the words that are coming out of your mouth. And it's okay. And she was very honest, you know, and saying, I don't know this. And I thank her, because this is why. I'm sorry. I'm saying this because, or the way I'm presented today is because of her, is kind of pulling it back a little bit so that you can see it and say, it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's deep. Yeah, it's deep. It's profound. I'm not going to teach you junk. You don't need that. Did you brush your teeth today? Did you make your bed? Did you not say bad words? No. Did you say a prayer? You guys know that. I don't have to teach you that. Why do we keep teaching that to people? This is more important. This is what gets us out. This is, as I told her, a matter of life and death. So we have to push it. And what I'm doing is pushing, but then bringing it back to where hopefully you get a start at this. It's not easy. It's like saying, see the picture. It's not that easy to see the picture, but you can do it. There's not one of you that can't do that, because there's not one of you that's listening that doesn't have the Buddha mind. You already have it. You already have it. So we start from this premise. So we really want to work on this and to get to this. This is tricky stuff, not easy. You know, when I read you these passages, you just go, what the heck? How come you can't read me something that I can understand? Why? You already understand that. So why should I read you something to make you feel good that you understand something, rather than what you don't understand? Isn't that more what one might say a teacher would do? So the kids in 5th grade, okay, kids, we're going to learn the ABCs. Huh? We learned those in 1st grade. Yeah, but we're going to learn the ABCs. That's foolishness. We need to practice and push to get this. You can do this. Okay, we continue on. And no, I'm not really ranting. What I'm trying to do is trying to show you why I'm doing this, and trying to inspire you to kind of follow the Buddhas and study. So, because he said that through wisdom, real things are not made unreal. Things themselves are unreal. This is the self-nature of mind. We look into mind. We see the phenomena. We don't take it to be real. Whatever it is, you know, and we look at it, and if I see something, look, beautiful, right? I created this. This is from my chi. I have all this power to be able to do this. No, it's just the circulating ball from my computer thing here. we're not unclear about things. We see them as they are. And when we see it in this way, it enables us to look through that. Those things are conditioned. They belong to mind. We don't have to throw them out with the trash. Where would we throw them out to? Like unzip a space in mind and then throw all the trash out? And then Michael would be there going like, oh, great, now I have a problem of where did all the trash go, and have to explain it in quantum physics. So it's very interesting. We have to use this mind. Hang in there with me today. It's going to be a different class. Sunyata is not an arbitrary prescription, and I'll explain that in a moment, to view things as unreal. So it's not something like say, oh, you know what sunyata means? What does sunyata mean? Tell me. It means that everything is unreal. Well, that helped. What do you mean everything is unreal? Everything is unreal. It just doesn't exist. Why don't you get this? Because you stop right there. You stop there and you say, oh, and everybody says, explain to me what is sunyata? Everything is unreal. Oh, do you understand what he's saying? It says it is a revelation of their intrinsic nature. This is wonderful words. It is a revelation, a realization of their intrinsic nature. You now know this. You're not befuddled by things. You see everything that is arising is tied in accordance with causes and conditions. Although we see these appearances, we do not have to abide in the appearances because they're simply projected on the mind. Where would you place yourself in this observance of these things that are projected on mind when that what you're using to view these is mind itself? Huh? Yeah, it's like this. How many of you confused? It's okay to be confused. I want you to break down this idea that you're using to try to go through this. I realized what Sue's problem was she's still holding on to this analysis via cogitation. And it's not in this way. So that's why he's saying it is a revelation of their intrinsic nature. That means a realization. When somebody talks about sunyata means something different. So somebody who has this revelation, sunyata doesn't mean nothing, doesn't mean the emptiness of an empty cup. It's all inclusive because it's all mind. But the mind has the ability, has the awareness, has the wisdom to see that these appearances are in and of themselves unreal, as opposed to the unconditioned, the paramatha. And he says, and this frees the human mind of the cobwebs of false views and wrong perspectives. Ta-da, right there. It's saying, you see this, but you see this in a different way. You don't see it discriminating and saying it's all an illusion, it's all a dream. It is, but it is happening in mind. That's why I call it mind work. I don't call it superior mind and inferior phenomena. It's all mind. Quite a while back, it it was in early 2020, I had read something, I took it to a retreat, and the saying was one that the Buddhas use the defilements of sentient beings to practice. And I thought that that was such an incredible statement, because implicit in that is the statement that all of it belongs to mind. If the sentient beings belong to mind, their defilements belong to mind as well. And that it is this intrinsic nature that is intuitively experienced, which makes the Buddha versus having the delusion that there is a sentient being that has a separate existence. And we talked about this a little bit, where we're saying that very often the absolute of the Madhyamika is taken as a nihilistic, saying that everything is mere nothing, because the Yogacara said everything's consciousness. Abhidharma says everything's real, and people say, well, the Madhyamika, all they say is everything that it doesn't exist. Nagarjuna never said that. Nobody ever said that in the Madhyamika school. But it's a real easy way for a philosopher just to go, aha, you know, that's just this characterization, you know, that that happens, and you over characterize, and then all of a sudden everything fits into that bill. And so they're saying that everything is negative in Madhyamika, and this is not the case either. I have to leave some time to talk about Sunyata and Karuna at the end, because this is important tie-in to Madhyamika, so we avoid that kind of an idea of a negativity here. All of this stuff is flavoring the sutras, and it's coming from the sutras and also flavoring them in terms of the practice, which trickles down into chant. This is why we spend the time talking about it, because there isn't like, oh, somebody decided and said, oh, I'm going to create a Chan school that is separate and discrete from everything else. No, Chan has a bit of everything. And it's kind of like Latin jazz. It has Afro rhythmic beats. It has German tuba or whatever, you know, all sorts of different things that come up and play in the music, all these different aspects of music that come into play. And that's Chan. Chan is this receiving of all of this high level doctrines and putting it all in to make sense and putting it into practice, so it does not become an intellectual exercise where we have an exercise where sometimes the Huayan and Tian Tai school tend to get into the idea that there's this intellectualism to all of it, and they move away from its real essence. Okay, so it said Madhyamika does not specially favor a negative view. We are on the contrary expressly warned against taking sunyata as a bhava. If you remember before, bhava means existence, so abhava means non-existence. The negative method implied in the rejection of all views by Madhyamika dialect may also have led some critics to take it as barren and nihilistic outlook. But what we do is it says the rejection, however, the only means open to absolutism is to free the real of accidental accretions with which the finite mind invests it through ignorance. Now, this is a lot. Okay, I understand. Hang in there with me. We're going to go through this, and then you're going to understand this. Okay, promise you. So it's saying that this is just the means of absolutism, is that we don't cling, or it doesn't cling to this. And so it says to free the real meaning the unconditioned, but not just the unconditioned, but the unconditioned in its ability to hold the conditioned. But to free it from these, what they say, accidental accretions. Sometimes they call it, the word, I've lost it now, of just these kind of experiences that come up in mind that create these causes and conditions. So they're saying these accidental things, because the mind didn't intend to do that. And it went, oh, crud, look what I did now. And it's kind of like trying to clean a oil drop off of a mirror. I don't know if you ever done that, but the more you try to clean it off, the more you spread it on the mirror. And I think that's kind of, don't hold me to this. Like I said, this is Gilbert's theory on how the sentient beings came about. But you're nothing but an oil smear. Okay. And it's saying that with which the finite mind invests. This is an interesting term here that's being used, and it's mind with a little m, finite, not infinite mind. So we're used to hearing infinite mind. Here we're hearing finite mind, something that doesn't go on forever. If people would say, where does mind end? It's infinite. Where does the light end? It's infinite. But we're talking about something that's finite, because it is the conditioned. It doesn't, it's born and destroyed. It increases and decreases, but the mind itself does not do that. The mind can expand to whatever expansion necessary to hold whatever the finite mind can push it. It's like the monkey Sheng thinking that he could create and go beyond the Buddha mind. And he couldn't, because no matter what he was creating and traveling was the utilization of the Buddha mind. So it's finite. And that's what he did not understand. So remember, if everybody asks you about Sheng, you know who Sheng was, the Monkey King, right? So if they ask you about that, then you can say why he messed up, because he's using the finite mind, not the infinite mind. So the finite mind invests it through ignorance. So they're saying that the finite mind, with all of these accidental things and causes and conditions that are arising, the finite mind invests. It's like buying fake currency, and it puts everything into it. I'm not saying bitcoins per se, but I mean it's something that's just made up currency, monopoly money, and it's investing all this in monopoly money, and believing it to be real. This is so. It buys something in the samsaric market, and it pays for it in this fake money, and it's finite. There's only a certain amount of money in the monopoly game. So it says invest it through ignorance. Ignorance is, let's buy. We've got all this money. Let's buy. We've got all the time in the world. How did I get old? I was just young, like last night, and I woke up, I'm an old man already. How did that happen? Where's my promise of all this? How much monopoly money do I still have? So it says through ignorance, it says it is not an end. So it's a means, it's a way of looking at it. It's not an end. It is a confusion to regard that no views of the real attitude of Madhyamika is a non-reality view. Negation itself is significant because there's an underlying reality, subjacent ground. If there is no transcendent ground, how would there be any view to condemn as false? A view is false because it falsifies the real. So it says, you know, I think that Democrats are the best party. On the other hand, I think Republicans are better than them. And you're going, wait, you guys make nonsense, and say, well, no, I don't make nonsense. I'm making politics. But all of that is just simply falsifying the real. Is like, shouldn't we just better just get along and for the good of everyone? Makes a thing appear, so falsify, and makes the thing appear other than what it is in itself. I don't like that guy because he's a Democrat, or I don't like that guy because he's an anti-vaxxer, or whatever it is. No, in terms of it, some of these I don't even know the names of them anymore, and what they are, whether they're for this side or that side anymore. They come up too quickly, but it's all views. And when we have all of these views like this, then it is we overlook the real, that which is the mind ground upon which all of this is appearing. Okay. So Nagarjuna said that without the acceptance of the unconditioned, the paramatha, there you cannot have any delivery. You cannot go to nirvana. So if you try to get in, and they're saying you're trying to get in nirvana, and they're going, hold on, you know, do you have the paramatha ticket? What? Sorry, you know, you go back for another lifetime. You can't get in because you have to understand the unconditioned. You have to understand the absolute. When I say understand, it is not understanding in a cognitive way. It is an intuitive realization of how mind works. I wish I had more time to be able to do this, but this will be the last week I'll do this because it's just too heavy. But there's so much good stuff I wanted to talk about. But I'm going to switch for a moment. I think you get the idea of absolute and phenomena, and it's not a negation of phenomena. It's not a confirmation of it. It is just seeing things as its intrinsic nature. One of the things that we talked about was that that some philosophers say that the Madhyamika school is nihilistic. There's nothing going on there. But it wasn't in this way because it had an influence in things. It had influence from the sutras and from the idea of, especially in the Tathagata Garbha Sutras, where there came Buddha nature. And with the Buddha nature was a little bit more of a fleshing on the bones of sunyata. And so where sunyata was saying everything is empty, this karuna, compassion, comes in to show that there's something there still. It is not simply just, okay, you have a dream and then you die in your dream and that's it. And then you have another dream. There is something beyond that. And there's something that has an interest in all of those dreams and an interest in ending those dreams. So let's see what they say. With that kind of in mind, let's read a little bit of what Murti says about this part. With the Buddhas as his ideal, the Bodhisattva aims at Bodhi and understands the discipline for it, the Bodhipada. So he's saying that with wanting to be like Buddha, we take up the ideal of a Bodhisattva. And in the ancient writings, Bodhisattva was used to show the progression and the maturation of the Buddha towards Buddhahood. And so we, in the same way, follow that same path, that we want to reach this maturation. And so we know that this comes from Bodhi. Shifu used to say that to vow to deliver others before oneself is the initial generation of a Bodhi heart, of a Bodhisattva. And this is very powerful saying. And that's what is being talked about here. And he says, and undertakes the discipline for it. So we say, this is our ideal, and we are going to do it. So it's dynamic. There is a practice, not an understanding, but a practice. Sunyata and Karuna are the two principal features of bodhicitta. So bodhicitta is this path of helping others. Sunyata is prajna. Sunyata is wisdom. We know it's wisdom. The Buddha is wisdom. Causes and conditions never fail. Pratika samapada. Sunyata all fills together. Intellectual intuition and is identical with the absolute. So they're saying that sunyata is this intellectual intuition, not just I got a feeling on this, I really know it. I got it. Okay, yes. Put $10 on running horse in the fifth. It's not that kind of an intuition. Okay, it's intellectual intuition. It is something that we look into, but then we don't cogitate about it. There is an intuition, a looking into, that results in a realization. Karuna is the active principle of compassion. So Karuna is this active principle. So Karuna, the definition of Karuna, is one who has an interest in the suffering of others. So we've talked about this many times, ergo that's why Avalokiteswara was presenting to Sariputra in the Heart Sutra that this Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, wisdom, leads to compassion, this unbridled compassion. So we continue. It says, Karuna is the active principle of compassion, means that it's dynamic, it's moving. It's not just saying, I really feel for the world. It's really bad to be this way. It's saying, what can I do? Roll up your sleeve, let's go. That gives concrete expression to sunyata in phenomena. So it gives a purpose, a meaning to sunyata. Without the karuna, it's dead. It's dead wood and a cold stone in cold water. There's nothing there. It is that karuna that drives that. The first time I read this, and I was introduced to it in studying the Abhidharma, things exploded for me in that moment, because I got it like right away. I saw how that fit in. And it was really amazing to be able to see something in writing that makes, verifies where you're going with everything. And so it is this this expression of emptiness. Very interesting. You have to contemplate this, not think about this, to make that come to life. You have to pour the right amount of water and fertilizer and put it in the fertile ground of mind itself. And then it will bloom. It will open up like a lotus. Very wonderful. If the first, meaning the sunyata, emptiness, is transcendent and looks to the first, if the first is transcendent and looks to the absolute. So he's saying if the first, emptiness, is transcendent, means it changes the whole game. And it looks to the absolute. It is the act of the absolute, like the absolute becoming the absolute. The second, Karuna, now follow this because this is pretty good stuff, is fully immanent, means it's like right now, right here, right in your face. It's here and looks down towards phenomena. What does that sound like, right? Guanchin Pusat looks down upon sentient beings. It looks down upon phenomena. It doesn't look it down like, oh, you're nothing. It is engaged with it. It's engaged with it and wants to uplift this phenomena. So the clarification of it, that the defilement within the phenomena is there. Karuna spelled Karuna. Okay, so then we continue on a little bit more. The first is the abstract universal reality, which no determinations can be predicated. It is beyond the duality of good and evil, love and hatred, vice and virtue. The second is goodness, love, and pure act. Sunyata is potential. Karuna is the actualized state. Buddha and the Bodhisattvas who model themselves on him or on the Buddha are thus amphibious beings with one foot in the absolute and the other in phenomena. Sometimes I equate it to a transparent fish in the ocean, but the meaning is very good because it's there. It is more like this transparent fish in the ocean that's coursing through it and is clear about it. It doesn't have to have one foot in and one foot out. You really want to go all in, and going all in, you can navigate, course through the Prasanna Paramita. What is the Prasanna Paramita? Anything, because anything that's there is the wisdom of the Buddha. We see that not in its phenomenal defiled state, but in its nature. They are virtuous and good and the source of all goodness in the world. The bodhicitta is a unique blend of intellect and will. And so this to me is very beautiful, very wonderful. And I couldn't finish my discussion about Madhyamika without this aspect of it, because that's what gives it its own, that's what gives it its reason to be, reason to study, because it isn't just simply something that is another philosophical way of looking at things. It is looking at it and inviting the person to investigate and to realize mind. This is what I present to you. I can't teach you mind. I can't teach you any secret words that are going to make you become enlightened. The only thing I can do is just tell you, look, you want to do this work, this is where you work, this is where you dig. And if you dig, most certainly because of cause and condition never fail, then you will see your original nature. Or I should say, your original nature will see you, and then that will be the end of you. You can still use the body and everything. The lease isn't completely over yet, but you just know how to use it, okay? No joyrides to Las Vegas. Okay, that's where I end for today. So hopefully that helped you. Hopefully, Sue, you got a better idea of this today. Yes, Sue, you had a question.
Well, I don't have a question, but I really appreciate you going over again today. And I want to tell you, I got it. I'm no longer confused. So today's lecture is 5-star, 3.
All right.
No, actually last week I was confused because you brought up different school. Also, you had mentioned a few times about impermanent, while we talking about emptiness and all this other unconditional. That when you put that impermanent in there, it really kind of threw me off a little bit. But today, it was really wonderful. I understood. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. And again, I have to thank Rick for, these are not easy ones to do. And his translation of last week was really amazing. Kind of gave me the inspiration to do this one today. And I kind of looked at, okay, what you were talking about and what he was doing. But Rick's a very quiet guy, but he's been doing this for a long time. And there's no doubt this stuff has stuck to him. So I give him praise. Okay. Any other questions?
Rick. Thank you. Double thank you.
You guys all got this today?
So Vaikyan has a question.
All right, go ahead.
Just kind of want you to explain a little bit more about the intellectual intuition versus the intellectual kind of work. Well, the question is from like last week when Sue said she's confused, and I'm thinking like I'm in a much worse situation than you are. And my problem is like I don't seem to be confused. It's kind of like everything you said, it seems to make sense to me. But the thing is like it doesn't really. It's kind of like I feel I probably was tricked by my ego to only understand it in a shallow level from the intellectual, but I don't know how to get out of it. It's like big for a while. So yeah. Am I making sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You're making sense. And it goes this way for a while. But you have to really listen to it and say, okay, what am I really buying here? Am I buying the intellectual side, or am I buying something else that really takes me some effort to kind of probe? And so that's, you got the intellectual, the intuition is what's lacking. So you have the intellectual, but the intellectual serves as a foundation for you in terms of focusing the mind on mind itself. And then that will become multidimensional. It will no longer be this kind of a higher state of philosophy. It will be actually this practice, like they were saying, this Karuna practice, which is very dynamic. That's why she doesn't even know. I mean, don't tell her, She doesn't even know, what she does. She's always helping people, but she says, I don't get it. And I go, I don't get that you don't get it. You got it. I mean, it's just this way. One day she will realize that. So it is in this way that we move forward with it. And that's why I really emphasize this end part about the dynamics and the activeness of Karuna. And that's very, very important. So you begin to bring more people to the practice. You begin to incorporate it in your everyday practice to try to do things and try to be an honest person with everything that you do, and see things just as they are. And that's what's really important, is putting it in the present moment. It will work. Just be patient with it. You just got this new car. You don't want to like race it too fast or you'll crash it. Like you see on these YouTube videos where people get a fancy car and end up wrapping it around a lamppost, and then they want to ask the lamppost what happened.
So you're saying, like, to break what my problem would be, like in everyday practice, I try to realize, like, I'm fabricating things or whatever, just to get it to the real thing or something. Or
don't worry about real or not real. Just keep it real in the present moment. Keep it real in terms of being aware of Pratika Samapada. We don't have to worry about whether we're real or not real, whether we're a ghost or we're a dream. Ultimately, we're a dream. Ultimately, we know that this side belongs to mine. And in that way, we don't have to worry about like throwing it all out. But we understand that there's something much greater, much more wondrous at work here. And that is the invitation for you to delve into that and to experience that. I just wish I could just, like ship it over to you by Amazon, and you could get it. You have Prime. If you have Prime, it wouldn't cost you anything. But unfortunately, I can't do that. It's not like you open up a box and it's there. You open up the box, there's the wisdom, but you have to figure out how to use it, and you use it in your everyday. So try that this week. Really try to be aware of things that are happening around you. You don't have to judge them. You don't have to do anything. Just try that. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Who is next, Michael? Was it Romchen next?
Yes, Romchen, and then we have Robert.
Okay, go ahead.
Right, Gilbert. It is my habitual tendency that I will continue to use finite mind and finite resource. Like this is going to be a very long way. So like when you describe Sun Wukong who can fly, I can only walk. So I like your guidance, a few steps, before we know how to get near the infinite resource, infinite mind, how to use infinite mind.
It would just have faith. This is where you have to do this, is you have to have faith. It's not something that you are going to do. It's like this picture, and you're saying, how do you do that? And first thing you have to do is you have to have faith that there is a picture within the picture, and the picture is made up of all of that's there, which is wonderful, but it's not anything like what you would expect it to be. It's far more wondrous than that. But when we try to conceptualize about it, that's where we lose it, because once we start conceptualizing about what it is not an is, then we lose track of where that's coming from. So it's better for us to practice, stay in the present moment, understand that instead of using discrimination, open yourself to seeing why things are happening as they're happening. What's the patterns here that are causing these things to occur? You'll be very, very surprised. You'll be able to begin to see the things and from where people come from, and why they're going to say something. And then you're waiting for them to say what you know that they're going to say. And you already precondition that you're going to respond in a certain way. It's really amazing because you're in that point, you're waiting for reality to catch up, or this apparent reality to catch up, because the mind has already processed where it should go with all of this. And so it's something that is wonderful. You just have to take it out of the box and try it. Okay. Don't leave it in the box. Okay. All right. Robert was next, I think.
Hi, Gilbert. Hi. I'm lately trying to find a way to practice the awareness of I'm being conditioned and how to practice unconditioned. And I'm starting to notice that I reacted to a lot of situations during the day, all day long, sometimes all week long. And I pick some of those conditions, conditioned reaction. I do so that I snap or I react or I'm about to say something or make a decision through a certain habit that I have. And I just let it sit, knowing that is happening. Let it sit for a day or two without thinking about it. But it's still in the so-called mind field. After a day or two, the answer seems to it just float, it just appear. The natural answer seems to appear. And those answers seems without actively figuring out, calculating and trying to find the best route, but the answer just slowly kind of float up to the surface of the water. And I look at it, well, okay, it seems reasonable. I'll just handle it. Is that actually knowing and noticing that I reacted to a lot of situations, and then by deliberately kind of just let it sit, let it fertilize in the background, and just go about my daily things. And then later on, the answer seems to, it's like there's a knot, a string, it's like a knot. The knot seems to loosen up, and then it's become a much easier situation to properly addressing it. And the resolution seems pretty good to me. Am I on the right track?
Sort of, but you're still using like America Online dial-up to make your connection. I don't know if you remember that. You'd have to call in to get your connection, and you'd hear that scratchy sound and stuff. Little by little, you'll move a lot faster with it. You're sure not fast, you'll move faster with it. You just let it go, put it down, whatever's there. Don't carry it around with you. In the beginning, you can ruminate about things, but that's just going to slow you down. You're using kind of like a dial-up to try to make a connection when this is like instantaneous. So don't hold on to anything. Don't cling to anything. Even, if you didn't react in that moment, or you were wondering about your reactions, just let it be. You don't have to do that. Today, I wrote a letter to an attorney. In that letter, I was kind of slicing up her client, but on the other hand, I was offering an olive branch, and saying we can have it either way, but I want to go this way. We don't really want to go against your client, but if you did, it's not going to go good for you. But why don't we just try to resolve this? And so those are the things that you do. One, to be professional, and make sure your client knows that she has an attorney representing her. And the other is that she has a good attorney representing her, trying to settle the case. And so and then you just put it down. I bring it up right now simply because you talk about it, but then I'll wait and then we'll see. I don't have to worry about it and keep opening up the oven and saying, is it baked yet or not? You'll end up with a half-baked result because all of the heat will leave the oven. So you just let it be. So trust in your judgment, trust in your wisdom. You know, don't have doubts about that. And little by little, that judgment and wisdom will be right because you're framing it in the context of Buddha Dharma. So you just have to trust that. Don't trust Robert, okay? And don't trust him, but trust your judgment, your heart, okay? And it'll work. Was it Julia next? Julia, okay, there you are.
Hi, Gilbert. So I'm kind of going back to the beginning of this lecture, and it sounds like, well, it is like when we say mind, we mean praticca samuppada, and we say praticca samuppada, we mean mind. And then you mentioned in the beginning that this praticca samuppada is the rule number 1 of the mind. So I'm wondering if there's a rule number 2, rule number 3, you know, maybe the sunyata is number 2, or, you know, and then karuna is number 3. So it sounds like there's more than just praticca samuppada to it. Can you kind of explain more about this?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Rule number 2 is praticca samuppada. And then rule number 3, you guessed it. So it isn't that mind has a feature, it is the self-nature of mind that is realized. We explain it through words, but when we understand the self-nature of mind, then we understand why things are created, why things appear to be born in this world, in the apparent world. So it's very, very important for us to understand that. Praticca samuppada in the sutras say it's not other than the Buddha mind. So it is an invitation to look into what is mind, and that will be where the words and the phrases will finish. But the answer is clear; it's unmistakable. Okay, you'll know when with that. Just keep going the way you're going right now. It's fine. Okay, you're headed in totally the right direction. Okay, don't be too anxious to get there, you know, because then it's like, wow, you know, it's like it's going to be your birthday, and then it's going to be your non-birthday, and then your non-birthday's gone. You go, gosh, it went by so fast. No, make it last. You'll be fine. You're in the right direction. You're asking the right questions. This is important. There's no stupid questions here, you know, just my stupid responses. But my thing is just, you know, I kind of work at it to try to point out where we're at with it. But yeah, stay where you're going with it. You're on the right track. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Gilbert.
Oh, no problem. Michael.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question to this. So I've been recently listening to a bit of very good Theravadan teachers, and when they answer questions about karma, they say, yeah, it's not like everything flows back. So it's like what happens is not necessarily based on your past, all like 100%. There are things which cannot be controlled, and this is where I sense that your teaching of Paticca Samuppada, which says everything is precisely there, is a bit more radical and maybe more helpful, because it says you put it there. It's no exception. So I wonder whether this is a subtle difference also between the Theravadan way of looking at things and the Mahayana.
It's subtle. Some people don't see the subtle. So to them, there's gaps in their understanding. And so they cannot see that mind is immaculate in its way. we may not have the ability to see all the little other gaps. Like, I can see and say, oh, this person, they came from the heaven realm, and I know they came from the heaven realm, and I may not know that. Maybe a higher level well-known advisor could tell me exactly, how many times or whatever, but I do know something. But I know that there's stuff I still, don't have the access to the full mind, of that a Buddha would have, to be able to discern those things. But what you find, then that lends you faith in that this is the way it works. And yes, it is impeccable. The big thing here, which is an interesting one, that will come up. If it hasn't come up in your mind now, it'll come up later. Is there a thing of free will, or is it all predestined? We should not understand things as to be that there's no free will. Otherwise, they would say, choose the Buddha instead of choosing ignorance. But your failure to do that may be the result of causes and conditions from the past. You didn't have faith. Your teacher was a fraud, which happens a lot of times, or something happens and you throw everything out. So there's so many different variations and things that come into play with that. But on the other hand, in the right view of it, when we look at it, we understand that intrinsically there's no you. Intrinsically, there's no phenomena. It's simply mind. It's all inclusive by virtue of sunyata. But to be all inclusive, it would mean that there's not a thing, including karma. So we would be derelict by not mentioning that as well. But people do not understand that aspect of it. And so they talk, and sometimes we have to be very, very careful so that we do not lead people on the wrong path in terms of doing things. It's not just simply, don't do that because the boogeyman's going to get you, And then actually with the Russian group, I was actually able to say Baba Yaga to them. I don't know where I got that from. That means a boogeyman. But anyway, it's not that way. It is like you understand why, because you're in harmony with causes and conditions. You're in harmony with Pratika Samapada. You're in harmony with the Buddha mind. It is not that you play like it. You just are in harmony. You don't have to worry about when the mind will absorb you, the self-absorption of mind, which is kind of an interesting comment or topic when they say self-absorption, because it is literally, that's what it is. It absorbs the self. Everything is still there. Everything's functional, but it's much more functional than it was before. So it's kind of interesting. And what you're doing now is you're discerning, and you're seeing, all right, there's some wheat here and there's some chaff here. And the thing is that you can't fake it. Okay. So good. It's a good question, because especially where you're starting to branch out and look at this and look at that, all of a sudden you start realizing the level of the instruction you're getting is beyond some of the people that are so-called teachers. I'm not putting them down. I'm just saying, use your discernment. Okay. Any other questions? No? Well, I'm really happy we had this class. I'm happy the way it came out. And again, I thank Sue for kind of being honest the last time and saying that she was all scrambled. Because it's something that I wanted to come back to this. And I really wanted to make this practice something that you see, one, historically, that it comes, into the right perspective of where it fits and how it comes into Chan. But two, the doctrinally, and then the last one is practice itself, how we put this into practice. And that's where the payoff is. That's why I read the last part about Karuna and saying this is the actualization of the Madhyamika. Very wonderful. So here I can go a little deeper than I go on Sundays, but Sundays have been pretty good, in terms of what I've been putting out there as well. So keep practicing, and I will see you next week. Okay, take care. Amitofo.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Thank you, Gilbert.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Gilbert. Thank you.
Thank you,
Gilbert.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.
Thank you, Gilbert. Good night.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Gilbert.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Practice,
Gilbert.
practice.
Gilbert. Good night.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Gilbert. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.